But you brought up a good point I want to get back to is the whole idea of not having to talk to anyone anymore, particularly that check-in. Are you I can understand. Do from the millennial mindset, is that something that when you go to stay at a hotel, do you want to bypass the check-in and go right to your room and not have to talk to anyone? I know the whole millennial mindset being being around people, but not necessarily having to communicate with them. Particularly as we see it with design, the way the lobbies are set up now, very communals, and there's nice big sofas and communal tables, sit around and on your phone, but be around people, but not have to actually interact with them. So are you seeing that? Is that a millennial thing, or do you think that's not even? It kind of crosses all psychographs.
It's slowly starting to cross over to all age groups. To be honest, it's primarily millennials you'll find, but it's more of the older frequent travelers, like the ones who spend hundreds of nights a year.
Corporate travelers.
Yeah. Corporate, yeah, definitely. They use it a lot more, I would say, now than maybe like a year ago or so, but it's
meaning like digital check-in and not having to just basically bypass the whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's slowly kind of going. I would find, I don't know what generation it technically is, but people, I guess, in there, I would say between 40s and 50s or so, late 30s to 50s, yeah, usually they're the ones who, they don't want to have anything to do with the technology part. They're like, no, I want to check in with you. I don't want to text you. Don't text me back. Things like that.
Oh, they still want to do the face-to-face?
Yes.
Okay.
But everybody else, it's kind of
really
the other opposite, way opposite spectrum. So.
Baby boomers, they just sort of like, I don't need to talk to you. They're just all crotchety people anyway. They don't need to talk to you.
Yeah, they're just like, let me just go in my room. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. How are you guys seeing that too? There's this loss. I mean, is that hospitality at its core is about the particularly at the luxury level, is about the one-on-one interaction. Is that worrisome then, or do you think that's
I think, even like with a company like Marriott now having, over 30 brands, how do you differentiate your product between this and that if everything just goes to an automated teller, or you can do it all from the likes of your phone? Yeah, it's convenient, but exactly to your point, it is a face-to-face industry, and we are in the business of serving people. And you take it a step further to like a revenue management thing. How can I separate my product, or how can I justify charging a much higher rate than the person next door?
Right.
Based on a machine, and then it comes down to the room, but essentially at the end of the day, the person's just looking to put their head in a bed.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of like the technology. I like to check in to my room early and like know what room I'm getting, but that's about as far as it would. Yeah. I would say I enjoy that.
And then most of the brands now, I know Hilton, I'm sure Marriott, you can actually choose your room too. I know that one thing that always, the hotel industry is, and I think, I never want to compare it to the airline industry because everyone hates the airlines. But you can pick your seat on an airline. It's tougher to do that. I don't know how well the hotel brands do a good job of showing you. When you go go to make a reservation, it'll say like, double room, king. I mean, people really don't understand what that is, but I think as we go forward with technology, you can actually, do a 360, view, whatever it is, of the room, and actually say, I want to stay in room 216. You can pick that room because it's not near the elevator, and you won't be kept up, or near the ice machine, something like that. Do you think we're getting to that point though, where it's really becoming, you can really, as a guest, personalize your experience without, giving up that control?
I think there's challenges to that. I think that there's a cultural shift towards that with everything that we just talked about. But practically speaking, because of turning the room over, that's a challenge. And candidly, I don't know if there's a solution there in the long term, because it takes you have a person who's going to check out the next day, and sometimes they might request a late checkout.
Right.
Sometimes people are checking out maybe at 6 a.m. to catch an early flight. So the next person coming in, right, and then having someone to go in your room and turn the room over. Yeah. How do you tackle that? As much as customer might want that, I think there's logistical.
So it's not that
challenges,
easy, obviously.
Right. Airlines is much easier, right? You can just clean a seat quickly, and
I've never seen them clean. Hardly.
But everyone gets off the flight at the same time, whereas in a hotel room, people are getting out of their out of their rooms at different times. So in a vacuum, in theory, it could work, but then you add real life, and that's.
I forget about real life.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I think it's interesting to see and getting back to technology, there are all these new products, companies that are coming in that make from different types of OTAs. But what I'm trying to get at is, there's the idea of why do I have to check in at 3 p.m. and check out by 11 a.m.? Is that fair? Like, I want to check in when I want to check in. I want to leave when I want to leave. And I think, there's some hotels. I think the standard hotel, if you know that brand, you can do you get 24 hours. Like, you can check in at 11 a.m. and leave the next day at 11 p.m. You get the 24 hours kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if that'll ever kind of take hold, because of, like you said, the customer would want that. They'd want to pay and get their whole 24 hours and check in when they want. But again,
there's a cost associated with it.
Yeah, there's a cost.
It depends on
associated.
what segment you're in and how much are you willing to pay, right? So,
right. Well, if they pay for it, though, that's the other thing. I think the industry has a chance to upsell, right? How well you can, and like you were saying before, I think with the way you were doing, you can talk to the. But, I think the industry has a chance to do kind of the whole upselling, whether it's through push notifications. Because if you have that relationship with your guest on a mobile platform, you can say, hey, that the bar downstairs, instead of the, $50 Bloody Mary at the Four Seasons, it's only $25 now. You know what I mean? There's the opportunity to kind of, from a revenue standpoint, right, to touch your customers in a certain way that we might not have.
Well, I think, and this is just subjective opinion, I think through the app, we're moving towards that experience, because what they're doing now is, as soon as you enter the hotel, they know exactly where you are, and then they can make suggestions accordingly.
Right.
Sure, there's a privacy concern there, but I think most of the industry, most of the brands with the app side of things and the customer experience, it's moving towards that, where if you're in your room at 6 p.m., you might get a push or notification saying, hey, we have a great deal for you for $10, go down to the bar.
Right, or the spa even, there's a 2-for-1 on massages. I don't know, that sounds kind of weird. But you know what I mean, there's opportunity. I think there's opportunity to upsell, or that there might not have been in the past with the way technology is today, so.
And I want to add just how expensive technology is too. When we start adding these platforms, like some of our full-service hotels are looking into these social media platforms where they don't have to check into your hotel, but like it's geofenced, so they can see, but that's thousands of dollars a year. So now, how are you going to offset that extra thousands of dollars to make that guest experience? Yep. Well, now it's going back into the rates, and then that brings a challenge. Well, it doesn't feel to some guests like they're getting any added benefit, or like the mobile check-in and like the check-in with your phone, I think is just going to happen. It's one hotel did it, and now all of the other brands have to do it. It's just one of those things. So the technology that goes into just those door handles for the phones, like how are you going to offset that and charge guests more when they don't see the value off the bat? I think that's one of the biggest challenges that the industry is going to face moving forward.
Well, it's also interesting the fact that you bring up that hotel companies today, one person does it and then the rest have to do it. So we talked about, we talked about OTAs, but the whole direct booking campaigns where member rates started. Who did it start? I guess whatever it was, but then everyone falls in line and it kind of becomes like a domino effect. Everyone has to.
And same with there was everyone moved to 24-hour cancellation. And
That's
one hotel moves it back to 48-hour. Now everyone moves back to 48-hour. It's like none of the brands can just find their own. You have to be the first mover, or you're in last.
Yeah, it's. I think IHG stood pat though at 24 hours. So from what I hear, or maybe it was Hyatt, one of those two, but.
It was one of those two, but I know as soon as I think Marriott
48 hours, right?
Then Hilton did it right away.
Well, from an owner standpoint, I mean, I think that's something, right? That you're. I think cancellation policies, to be honest with you, have been too lax probably in the hospitality industry. I mean, you look at it. The thing I know, booking with the airline and hospitality in a hotel is like, when you book a hotel or a car rental, you're like, I can just do this quick. Airline, I double check everything, because I know if I hit one wrong button a day, they're going to slap me with like $150 change, whatever it may be. But the hotel industry, I know, has been lax over the years. So I
think it's the entry of the third-party distribution channels, right, that are driving that decision for the hotels or the brands or the owners. Because if you go to a hotel, whatever one of those websites are, like 12 hours before you're coming in, that might be a 50% discount on the rack rate, right? So I'm assuming that's, from the discussions I've had, they're really pushing the pressure on the brands to be a little more strict with that policy.
Right.
I think there's also something to be said, though. I mean, you said it earlier, nobody really wants to be compared to the airline industry.
No.
And I think that it's a fine line for sure, but I think that there's also a lot of value to, especially in the hospitality industry, where we are supposed to be sort of a home away from home for people. Yes, you have to, protect ownership, you have to protect revenue, you have to take care of yourself as well, but you don't want your guests to feel like you're, I think most people feel that way about airlines, that they're trying to squeeze every last penny out of you. You take a flight because you have to, not because you want to, and that's definitely not what hoteliers really are aiming to convey. You don't want someone to stay with you because they have no choice and you happen to be $5 cheaper than the guy down the street. So
yeah, I actually interviewed Bill Marriott once, and I asked him about, I think, cancellation policies, and I said, why aren't they more stringent? He said, because we're in the hospitality industry.